that.
So we're live.
And we are good to go. Welcome everybody to AFL Access's first show of Footy Rivals. I'm here with Justin.
Mate, happy to be here.
Newcomer on the channel and the show, obviously. It's a brand new show. And I'm Ryan. I suppose maybe I'd be the host.
I think so. I think being in your space.
Maybe a co-host or something.
I've got a little admission to make. While you've been really hard at work setting up the show, I've been here just drawing a bit of a meteor in the punch hole on my paper because I feel a bit useless. But no, I'm very, very happy to be here, mate. It's very exciting.
Brilliant. So the channel obviously knows who I am and everything, but who are you? Let's give an introduction to Justin.
Well, let's talk footy for the background then. I mean, I've played a lot of very subpar junior footy. Decided to jump out of that because there was absolutely no career in it for me. So I got into the media side of things and have just been covering country footy since, I think, about 2012. I had a column while still in year 12, which was a bit of a juggle. But when you don't do that many TE subjects, it's not that hard. So, yeah, I have been covering footy. Currently work for the Mandurah Mail here in Mandurah, obviously. And it's, that's my footy background and keen to be here and talk some footy.
Brilliant. Now, obviously, you guys will have seen a bit of a theme going. The show is called Footy Rivals. I'm a West Coast supporter, and unfortunately, Justin's a supporter.
You can't be feeling good about this,
He's
mate.
a supporter of footy.
You can't be. I've infiltrated your room. We've got the merchandise up here.
It's a sore spot. It is a sore spot.
All right. Well, I'm glad we can create that for you then.
But you see, I've got all premiership memorabilia stuff.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I can't wait to talk about the present instead of the past tonight. This is going to be fun.
All right. Well, in keeping with that theme, okay, we want to open up with a question at the start of the show or a statement that each of us is going to make. And we're going to put a stance on it that the other person has to argue either for or against that statement. Hey, Joel, how you going, mate?
Good to have you here.
Okay, so basically the way this works, I'm just going to jump into it, and you guys will figure it out as we go. Have the new rules made the game better? I want you to argue that they have not.
Okay.
Right, so at the end of the show, when we finish up with what we're doing, now Justin hasn't heard that statement. He has no idea.
No, that's very intimidating to me.
He has no idea that this is the argument that he's going to be making. So he's got the show to come up with an argument that the rules have indeed made the game better. And Justin's got one for me.
Right, so my question for you, mate, I'm sticking with the rivalry theme here. I like the theme of the rivalry.
Yeah, I went straight into it.
I tried to find things to keep it generic AFL, but I just want to go with the rivalry. I want you to argue for this. Alex Pearce and Joel Hamling are the top defensive duo in the AFL as things stand right now. You've got to argue for that and tell me why they are the top defensive duo.
Oh, I wish I had some Freo stats to be able to back that up, actually.
Oh, I feel like I've sprung that on you a bit now, but you've got to tell me why they're the top defensive duo.
All right. I'll give it my best. Hello, hi, X. Welcome to the show, buddy. Okay, so now you guys can actually put your opinions as to those statements. There is, in the cards in the top right section of the video, you'll be able to find out all the polls and everything there. We'd be very interested to know how you feel about those statements as to whether you think they're true or not.
Very interested as I've got to figure out how I feel.
And by all means, at the end of the show, when we actually come to make our arguments, let us know whether you agree with what we're saying or not. Now, obviously, we've been talking a bit about West Coast and Freo. I want to ask you a question here. West Coast have gone 3 wins, 3 losses over the opening 6 rounds. They've looked impressive in 1 game.
Yes, they have.
Are there concerns for their premiership defence this year?
No, I do not think so. I think West Coast are dealing with... they've got their share of injuries, don't they? They've struggled to and from with injuries. I mean, is Barras out?
Barras is out for the next 8 to 10 weeks or something
For me, that's a massive one.
Yeah, massive.
To me, that doesn't... Jeremy McGovern loves to just float off. He loves the intercept play. And not only of the new rules of the 6-on-6 meant if the Eagles are burnt in a clearance in a crucial part of the game, he's going to have to defend. Mm-hmm. I think not having Barras there, that safety net, that real rock. I mean, he was, one of the most, courageous defenders. It takes a brilliant grab. I love the way he plays. It's a shame that he's not actually in purple. But I don't think there are overarching concerns, just for the fact that we talked about it before the show, that their next 4 weeks could be 4 wins.
Could be, yes.
So by then, are we talking doom and gloom? If they're 7-3, are we talking doom and gloom?
They could be 3-7. The way that they're playing at the moment. So I think this is everybody's concern at the moment with West Coast, is that it's not that they've just lost games. That's, you could accept that.
Yes.
The way that they've lost games, though, so if you go into the opening round against Brisbane and against Geelong and Port Adelaide,
yes,
they've been not very good.
No.
The stat came up this week. They've lost 11 of their past, 12 quarters or something like that.
That's rough.
That's
rough.
massive.
Yes.
That's effectively losing 3 games.
Yes.
Straight out with not even winning a quarter.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to win 1 quarter across 4 and get across.
That's probably the most
12.
worrying thing for me with regards to West Coast defence of the Premiership.
Yes.
Is they're not playing well. And they're not even losing close games. They're getting smashed.
Yes. They have been. I agree with that. The Port Adelaide one, they kind of... I give them a bit of a pass on. Have they played great wet weather footy in the past? I'm not sure.
They always play tall footy.
Yeah, they love to play tall, and their skills are brilliant. I was listening to... I can't actually remember who I was listening to about a month ago, and it was someone who covers both West Coast and Fremantle, and they mentioned that at the trainings that they go to, Fremantle will practice structure to within an inch of their life.
Yes.
West Coast will practice skill. When the weather comes, that skill might go out the window.
Structure definitely helps more than skill set.
Yes. So I give them a bit of a pass on the Port Adelaide one. The Geelong one, pretty hard to be.
Here's another thing that Adam Simpson actually brought up in his post-match press conference, was that they play 16 night games, which is all dewy at night.
Yes.
So they have to adjust to the night wet conditions.
I didn't know that. That's a little damning for them.
Okay, so now that you know that, and that their prerogative is skill set, has that changed your...
That does make me fear for them a little bit. I think... Yeah, I still don't want to use the term hangover. We're 6 rounds in.
No, I don't think they've got a premiership hangover.
I don't think that's true. I think they've still played good footy in patches, and they've unearthed some good kids in this rough patch. Petruccelli's been a bit of a revelation for them.
Petrol Jelly.
Yes.
Use his proper name.
Look, I love the kid. He's in my fantasy team, and when he kicked those 5 goals, I think he might have just gotten me over the line. So I love him. I'm not ready to use hangover. I'm not ready to say it's doom and gloom, but boy, they've copped some flack in the media, haven't they? They've really been
probably deservedly so right now. But
yeah,
I do agree. Round 6, they're 3-3. They're not out of it. By the next 4 games, they could be 7-3, and then you look back and go, "Geez, what were we talking about?"
Winning covers.
You've got to remember as well that they're 4 games or 4 weeks or so less preseason than everyone else.
That is very true. And that does take a toll. Teams have 4 extra weeks to prepare. It's a big deal.
If you remember Hawthorn's 3-peat, they always started slow.
They did. And they would always come around at the right time and punish my Dockers, which was terrifying. But I'm not ready to put the fork in West Coast at all. I think if they win these next 4, I can't remember who they've got after the next 4, but I think the next 6 or 7 are all winnable. I think at one point they might have Sydney in there or something like that.
Yeah.
They win those games and they turn into let's say by round 15 they're sitting on 10 or 11 wins or even 9. We're talking differently about this team.
Yeah, definitely.
We're talking about the fact that they could be priming at the right time.
I tell you what, we could convert you yet, buddy.
You've got a long way to go. It's I like to call myself a long-suffering tragic, and I'm not going through all this pain just to jump ship.
Well, speaking of pain and jumping ships and whatnot, Fremantle are playing pretty well this year. They've had probably one bad game. I would imagine.
I would say that. Yeah.
Do you think they can sustain their form well enough to remain top 4? And if not, can they at least make finals?
I think they can make finals. I don't think they're a top 4 team.
Yeah.
I think the footy they've played, to me, has been good. I actually think they should be, you can make a case that they should be 6-0. You kick straight against West Coast, you get over the line against Gold Coast, and you're an undefeated football team. I think, to an extent, the new rules quite help them a bit.
Yep.
They've got a lot of tall forwards now that can take a lot of marks. and all you need to do is win the clearance to get it to them.
Yes.
I went to the game against the Dogs last week, and they weren't winning the clearance, and that was what was hurting them at stages. But if Fife wins enough clearances and gets enough delivery...
You think losing Lachie Neale probably hurts more than having Fife in the team,
I think so. I think the acquisitions they picked up have been good to help with the loss of Lachie Neale, but they're all players that patch in and out in terms of the midfield players. Yeah. Conker, Collier, guys like that. Top 4, I don't think so. I think if you're going to tell me that there's 4 better teams than Fremantle in this competition, I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
If you're going to tell me that there's 8, the Fremantle fan in me would make an argument that there is not 8 better teams in this competition with the way that teams are set to fall. I don't think Sydney are obviously not as good as last year. Hawthorn probably not in that frame. Melbourne have dropped out. I don't think Adelaide's that great, although they could rise and prove me wrong.
They've been patchy.
They have been.
Adelaide have been very patchy. They've had, I'd say, 2 good games and probably 2 really stinker games and 2 frustrating games.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
They've been a frustrating team this year. And I was making comments about this, I think, in my last power rankings video. The problem that not the power, that's the crossover rival, that Adelaide have had, right? Specifically in their grand final year, Adelaide love to play over the back goose footy.
Absolutely.
Okay. The problem is that teams are setting up their defensive zones further up the ground from kick-ins now because they're expecting a long kick-in.
Yeah.
They're probably setting all the way back up to the wing. So that doesn't allow that over-the-back kick and fast-flowing footy, which is... I mean, we're going into the topic that I wanted you to answer later on, but I don't think the kick-in rule has been as beneficial as what the AFL wanted.
I think it's team by team.
It's affected a lot of teams.
Yeah, I think it's team by team. The keyword that you use there, I think, is fast. They used to play fast footy. Are they fast anymore? I mean,
they can't play fast.
The Crouch brothers, Sloan, Gibbs, all fantastic midfielders. They love finding the footy. They're really good at finding the footy. Are they fast enough? Because I've been watching, they've got Fremantle this week, and Fremantle could just burn them on the outside. Yeah. Stephen Hill, Michael Walters, guys like that. I mean, they're really quick. Adelaide need to get fast for me. To get over the top and to get those goals over the top, they've got to get fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that means winning the ball quickly, and if you don't have the leg speed, make quick decisions.
Who would you say is the most out-of-form forward at the moment?
Oh.
Speaking of Adelaide.
Well, I mean, Josh Jenkins can't be in the team. He's
Josh
not in the
Jenkins
team.
Is the most out of form forward.
I think so.
And that over the back goose footy affects him the most.
I mean, he kicked up a stink when he got let out of the team, didn't he? There was a report that he let Don Pike know about it, and it makes you think, well, mate, you haven't really been playing that great of footy. Elliot Himmelberg comes in last week, did a fair decent job. They get a win.
Yeah.
I can't remember looking at the teams. They're a Sunday game against Freo, so we don't know if Elliot Himmelberg comes
last game of the round
out yet, do we? So I don't even know if he was on the listed potential out, so I'm not sure. But I don't see him breaking into the side this week, unless my eyes have deceived me, and he has. But yeah, I think I would agree with you. He's the most out of form forward that they've got at that club. One thing I wanted to ask you, mate, looking into this round, I want to talk about the Blues for a second.
Yeah.
Because they've had 2 very good weeks.
I want to talk about the Blues, actually, yes.
2 very good weeks. One kid
I would argue they've had 6 very good weeks.
No, you could argue that. I mean, we talk about honourable losses. They've
had two. They've had 2. They've had 1 win. They only just marginally lost against the Hawks.
Do they remind you of Brisbane last year?
Do you know what? I haven't actually spoken that thought to anyone. 100%. I maintain that Brisbane is the best 5-win team of all time.
That's not a bad call at all.
And I reckon Carlton are there.
Yeah,
they are the Brisbane of last year, 100%. Yeah,
I would put them in that frame. I mean, they've got superstars. They've got Cripps. They've got Walsh. They've got Curnow up front, McGovern.
Walsh. Let's talk about Walsh for a second. He's played 6 games, and you reckon he'd probably be a 24-year-old hitting his prime.
I couldn't agree more. The disposal he's getting, the way he's distributing it, the way he's finding it. I mean, that's the main thing you want from a kid. Find the footy. Show us you can go and get it before we teach you where to go with it.
I tell you what, it's not even that he's only getting it in the midfield. He's getting it in the back, He's getting it in the forward.
He's
runs
getting it
everywhere.
Runs all day, doesn't he? He's a machine. Love his work. Can't have more praise for him. But that actually is not a bad segue into what I wanted to talk about. Is that Sam Walsh was a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So you look at him and you think you've got a career footballer, a career gun on the trajectory he's on. He's going to be outstanding.
Yeah.
They gave up a number 1 pick to get a kid that could come into the side this week in Liam Stocker. I think he was listed as on the extended interchange. I wanted to ask you, does Liam Stocker come in? Do you think he can get into this side and probably not prove Blues fans right or give Blues fans the hope that they won that trade because it just looks ugly at the moment for giving up pick 1. But do you think he can at least give them something to go on to go, look, I can see why my club went out after this kid.
Who was actually taken at pick 1? Because that wasn't last year's trade, was it?
No, that was Sam Walsh was taken at pick 1.
Yeah.
And then Carlton have traded next year's pick 1 to Adelaide.
Oh, their first
in an effort to get Liam Stocker.
Right. Yeah, their first. Yeah, that's right.
So Adelaide's sitting here at pick 1 at the moment. I think if Carlton's are they on the bottom?
No, they're not on the bottom.
No, Melbourne are.
Yeah, by a long way. I tell you what,
that's right.
Melbourne are sitting under 80%. They're the only team sitting in the competition under 80%.
It's not good, is it?
No.
That's a damning statistic.
In answer to your question, look, I tell you what, even if he has a bad game on the weekend, comes in and plays and has a bad game, give him a couple of games to establish himself, get used to the pace of the footy, and get a feel for it, and actually build some confidence. Just this is what I actually hate about the AFL as probably a whole, specifically with guys going in and out and in and out of the team. Just turn around and say to a bloke, look, doesn't matter how you play, you've got my backing for the next 3 games. Just ease in.
Give him some confidence.
Go from there, and then we'll reassess from there. All right? Give him that backing so that he doesn't have to go, I have to do this. He doesn't have to play, what's the general consensus? Safe footy, where you're only trying to do the right thing instead of actually doing the extra percent on top. Right. I think Essendon a couple of years ago fell into that for a few rounds where instead of tackling the guy that's running past, you're just sticking to your man.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. That's what you don't want a player coming into your team to do.
Yeah. And
that's what I fear will happen with specifically new kids and stuff that come into teams that aren't allowed to actually prove themselves.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a real problem. Let me rephrase the question. Sam Walsh comes in as pick 1. He's supposed to be the saviour of the club. Liam Stocker comes in as a kid they gave up a potential pick 1 for. Who has more pressure to perform? From a fan base perspective, the club won't give them any pressure.
Sam Walsh.
Yes, I agree.
Only because Carlton won't finish last this year, so Stocker is not a potential pick 1.
Correct.
He's a first round
That's a good point. Yeah.
He's not a pick 1 pick. So it's not like... who would you compare that to, probably? If you were to go... that's not a fair comparison. I actually think it's not a bad trade by Carlton.
Carlton's didn't hate it at the time.
Was always going to be up. They were never going to finish last this year.
I think they'd secured Mitch McGovern. They're looking at another season with Charlie Curnow. They're looking at another season of development for Jacob Wiedering, who I'm still waiting to come on.
I tell you what, Jacob... Okay, this is the thing with Jacob Wiedering. He is constantly played out of position.
Has he ever been allowed to settle? Yeah.
Liam Jones plays Wiedering's position, and that's the loose defender.
Yes.
Wiedering is the McGovern of Carlton, right? And in his first year, he proved that, and he played very well in his first year.
He was very
impressive.
He was
the loose defender.
Yes.
Once Liam Jones came into that team, and they couldn't do anything with him, they threw him down back, they made him the loose defender because he's not accountable enough to play one-on-one.
Correct.
And he can't play any other position. So Wiedering's now playing one-on-one, which development-wise this early is probably good because it adds another string to his bow early on.
Give him a new dynamic.
But that's not his powerful position. His powerful position is as a loose defender. He reads the play very, very well.
He does. And I think he does look constricted back there,
doesn't he? He cops too much flack from fans and from the media purely because he's not playing the role that he should be playing. And
also, that's the pressure that comes from being a number 1 pick that we've just talked about. Right?
I suppose so, but I think in this first year, he handled that pressure beautifully.
I thought he was brilliant in his first year. I do remember that. Was his first year 2016, 17? Could have been the 2016
This is his third year. This is his third year.
Yeah. Right, okay.
So 16 drafts was his first.
Yes, yeah. Okay, yeah, no, he's. I totally concur with that.
And you even go like that. So he's played 90% of games since he was drafted, right? So this is his third year. And even last year, in his second year as a key position player, he was copying so much flack. You tell me what key position player comes into the team in their first and second year and plays almost every single game.
I think the only one I could tell you with confidence that I think not every single game, but has done it quite well with a lot of games, is Aaron Norton from the Dogs. And he's beginning to struggle dealing with, Luke Beveridge mentioned in his press conference after the Freo game, he thought that he was copying holds that weren't being called.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's true, but anyways, regardless, I think Aaron Norton's the only bloke you can point to and say that, at the moment, that's who's doing it. I can't think of any others off the top of my head.
I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat. Andrew, who I know, says West Coast were very good last week because he's a Geelong supporter.
Right, yeah.
So he's rubbing that into me. Thank
fair
you.
enough.
Thank you, Andrew.
Good work.
And then Hi X, the Hawks were good in the 2008 grand final. Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
They were.
They were. Probably good in 2013 and 2015 too, but let's move on.
All right, so he was saying because they beat Geelong.
Of course, replying to the Cats.
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Is Brisbane going to play finals this year?
They're in the mix. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to whether they're going to play finals or not. Their wins have been impressive. Their losses have come against teams that you want them to get over the top of.
Yeah.
The Collingwood game, I thought, they just looked off, which is not a knock on them. Collingwood's a great midfield, a great side, and Brisbane's kind of hanging their hat on their midfield to win that footy at the moment. Lachie Neale needs to... He
needs a bit of help.
He has stepped up, but he needs to step up.
See, I wouldn't say that he has stepped up. He's playing as good as what he was at Freo.
You're probably right, because I think in 2016 he actually did have the most touches in the AFL that year. So, and he's on track to do that again, I believe.
I think 2017 was his biggest year.
Could have been. I thought it was 16 with a Fife injury.
The record.
Either way, Tom Mitchell came in and smashed that, I think, didn't he? But Lachie Neale outbarred the weirdo that is Tom Mitchell when it comes to finding the footy. You're right. You're probably right. He's playing as good as he was at Freo. He's just, probably playing with a bit more vigour now, given that he's pretty settled at Brisbane.
6 rounds in, yeah.
I think he's been pretty vocal about how well he's been settled.
I said in the preseason that Lachie Neale was a bigger acquisition to the Lions than the loss of Beams.
I totally agree with that.
It more than offset the loss of Beams.
Totally agree.
Having Beams would be nice.
Oh,
having Lachie Neale is better.
You never want to lose someone like that. But I had a conversation with someone when this all happened, and they were saying, can Lachie Neale give you the goals that Beams gave you? I've never looked at the tally of Beams' goals. I know he had one game where he had like 30 plus touches and 5 goals. He's freakish. You'd love to have him. But I agree. Lachie Neale's younger. He finds the footy better, in my opinion.
Yeah, in more space.
He always seems to have space. I mean, look, as a Freo fan, if you told me I could either have Dane Beams or I could have Lachie Neale back, I'd take Lachie Neale back.
I'd take Lachie Neale back, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you go Beams when he was at Collingwood, because at Brisbane, he had a lot of injuries.
Yes.
He had a lot of injuries at Brisbane.
Yeah, he did.
If you could tell me that I could have Beams from Collingwood...
His first stint at Collingwood, yeah.
I would probably take Beams over Neale.
Yes, I think I would too.
But I would take Neale. Yeah,
yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think one thing with Lachie Neale is just how influential he's been to the Lions. I mean, I don't know if it's just because the way he's playing is brilliant, but also he's just sort of a signal for them. He's a symbol to be a step forward in the right direction. Yeah. And I think the players have taken that in their stride.
Well, he's probably their biggest, I suppose, besides Beams. But Beams didn't go there willingly. He went up there for his father.
Yes.
Neale's probably the biggest name that's gone to Brisbane.
And sought them out.
Probably in the history of Brisbane.
Yes. I would tend to think so. I mean, I think back to the premiership days. Did anyone
think
actually
of anyone
put their
actually
hand
went
up
out their way to go
get
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe... I couldn't remember at all. I mean, maybe someone did. If you can prove strong on the chat, please join in.
In saying that, I think we were both a fair bit younger then.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was probably only just starting to get into footy probably just after that.
Yeah,
after that era. So.
I can confirm that I have a brother who hangs his hat on those premierships, and that is the reason that he bandwagoned over to Brisbane. Do I think they'll play finals this year? They're a chance.
I still think they'll get there.
I will
say they leak a lot of goals.
They do.
Even in their wins, they leak a lot. Their defense is not very good.
And without is Harris Andrews, how long is he injured for now?
While.
He's gone for a while, and he's a massive pillar to that defense. So when they're bad, they look bad. When they're good, they look very good. Very good. Just depends how sustainable they're going to find it. It could just be one bad injury away from not being sustainable.
All right. I want to quickly go through the games. Basically, very quickly.
Yep.
Because we do have an overarching question that we want to tackle.
Yep, absolutely.
In this episode. Nothing in there much. No, Matty Eagles. Oh, from Brisbane. Oh, yeah. He should come in and play, Matty Eagles.
Yeah.
All right, Friday night footy tomorrow night. Collingwood versus Port. Now, interestingly, this is at Marvel Stadium.
Very
and I
interesting.
think Marvel Stadium suits Port Adelaide better than it does Collingwood.
So do I. On the basis that I placed that on the basis that the MCG suits Collingwood perfectly. So how could it suit them better than playing at Marvel?
And I think Port probably play a slightly faster brand of footy.
I think that's true.
Than what Collingwood do, which suits Marvel.
Collingwood love to play possession, don't they? Didn't that last year? They set the record for possessions by a team in a year. They just love having the footy.
I tell you what, Collingwood have two styles of play. All right. Last year, they probably more so adopted Richmond's 2017 style of play of just chaos footy. Get the ball, kick it forward, do what you can with it. Just pressure.
And they had the forward line to do that. They still do have the forward line to do that.
This year, I find that they can either do that still or play West Coast brand of footy and control the footy.
True.
They were on record this year in the second or third round to they only fell about 10 marks short of the all-time marks per game record.
Right. Okay.
So they can if they want to control the footy or they can go fast and hectic. Which I think generally speaking those are your two general styles of footy.
You can either play slower, you can
and
play
if you can play both of those well
and control the tempo of the game, I suppose that becomes you decide.
I can't see a team thrashing the Pies if they can do that.
Particularly not even though it's at Marvel. I can't see them happening at Melbourne.
If they can flick their game style like that to be able to change the tempo on a whim.
How does the loss of Mason Cox hurt them here? Because he's out this week, I believe, and Ben Reid comes in for him. Does that hurt them given they're on Marvel? Or does it help them given they're on Marvel? What does it do to them?
It probably hurts them only because Mason Cox is guaranteed to bring the ball to ground.
Yes. He's not going to lose a marking contest.
He's either going to win it or he's going to halve it. Ben Reid, I couldn't say that Ben Reid has I have the same confidence in Ben Reid.
No, I don't.
Not these days, anyway. Maybe go back 4 or 5 years. I'd say, maybe, but not now.
I'll tell you what, one bloke that does come in for him, who's my notable in of the week, is Jamie Elliott. Yes. I think just what he adds to the forward line. He's very good. Very good at what he does.
And you wouldn't have even known that he missed footy when he came back.
Brilliant. I love stories like that too. Just blokes that come in, they're in form.
I tell you what's the most annoying thing for me about Jamie Elliott is you go back probably 2013 sort of era where he's playing really well. I hated him. Hated watching him. Thought he was an arrogant prick.
It's just one of those players you love to hate.
Watching him.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. He's probably a bit like Ryan Crowley in that regard.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
You hate him, but you just go, he's pretty good.
And you really, you could do things that other players can't, and you give me a chance to see
Cox
it. I'm going to go with the Pies in that game.
Too inconsistent. Look, I do agree that he is inconsistent. I said so in the preseason. However, even if he's not marking the ball or kicking goals, his presence is more than welcome in that team.
Yeah, I think that's a big point. That presence is huge.
His presence more than makes up for his football ability.
Yeah. Who have we got next?
Next, so Saturday morning, or it is morning over here anyway. We've got to remember most of our audiences over east. Melbourne versus the Hawks at the MCG.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting game. What's the Hawks' record through 6 games? Where do they sit? They're 2-4, 3-3?
Yeah, somewhere around there. They're about middle of the pack. I believe they're
not 4-2, are they? Regardless,
I don't think so.
I think it's even if they were, I think it's a game that both teams need to win, particularly Melbourne.
I tell you what, my instinct goes to Melbourne because I keep thinking of Melbourne's form last year, and if you look at the stats and you look at the way that Melbourne have played, they're not being beaten by teams. They are beating themselves.
They're playing some pretty.
They get a lot of
footy
the ball.
In terms of
they get
errors.
A lot of inside 50s, but their conversion from inside, their forward line is killing.
And they've dropped Sam Wiedemann this week. What does that do to that forward line?
Who have they brought in?
Oscar McDonald came in, who I'm assuming, do they play him? They probably switch him back, and then did Tom McDonald switch back last week, so he might come forward?
Yeah.
And then I believe Viney's also out because he got absolutely stacked.
He got stacked.
Yeah. So shout out to the WA boy, Sydney Stack.
He's out for 2 weeks, Viney, which is going to be huge.
Yes.
Against Melbourne.
Yeah, I think that's big. Yeah, I think that's big. The Wiedemann dropping, they come out in the week, they sort of defended him, said you've got to give a young kid time. Absolutely true. Yep. But he's come into a team that doesn't really want to go backwards a step. You know, they've spent so long down the bottom, they want to move forward. You know, obviously losing Hogan's hurt them. There's no doubt about that. But
I think
the Wiedemann dropping, where does that sit with you?
It's probably due. It's probably a bit overdue.
Yeah.
I think at times last year he needed to be dropped and he wasn't. Putting a lot of... But Wiedemann can be a good player, which is fair enough. But at the same time, he's young.
Yeah.
So he can be inconsistent. So if he's not playing well, you just need to show... it's not so much that he's playing bad in like some aspects and he can't pull himself back into games. Young players don't know when they're playing bad how to get themselves back into a game. Like doing the small things, lay a tackle, do a shepherd, do the team things and bring others into the game then.
Work your way into it, yeah.
Wiedemann still needs to learn that part of the game, which he's obviously not doing at the moment.
No.
Which is obviously not helping his forward line to then generate scores.
Yes.
So bring someone else to be able to do that. I'm all for that as long as he actually gets a learning out of this, as opposed to he's just playing shit.
I tell you, I agree, and I've tipped Melbourne to actually win this game.
I tell you what, if Melbourne don't win, they don't make finals.
I think they need to.
I think they get up for it. If Melbourne don't win this game, they will finish bottom 4.
I agree. And I tend to think that this game could somewhat rest on... well, not rest on him. What I would love to see in this game is Jeff Garlick kick 4+. I'd really love to see him.
He's a bit of a shadow, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he's come back recently, and we know that he can tear a bit of a game apart. No Wiedemann. I know he's not at all, but the forward line responsibility somewhat comes to him a little more. I'd love to... I just love Jeff Garlick when he's on. When he's on, he's cracking to watch. So... hopefully he has a cracker.
Yeah. And who do we have winning Collingwood Port?
I've got Collingwood. Who are you going to go with?
I'm going to go Port.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Footy Rivals. That's what we do.
Footy Unrivals. I reckon Melbourne as well.
Okay. Fair enough.
Giants versus St Kilda in Canberra.
Well, they lost their last one in Canberra. My boys pipped them. So
surprisingly.
Very surprisingly.
Yeah, they just can't beat the West teams.
No, man, good. Let's keep it that way. But, sorry, who did they? They got the Giants and Saints. I'm going to go with the Giants because I think the Saints...
Do you know what? The Saints are playing good footy.
As well as they have played, they didn't really get as close to Adelaide as I would have liked them to last week. And Jack Stephen, the loss of Jack Stephen.
Yeah.
Sad to see him missing footy. Absolutely sad. It hurts St Kilda for mine. I thought he had been building towards
as well as the loss of their 2 key defenders for a large chunk of this year as well.
Yeah.
The Saints team is starting to fall apart a bit.
Yeah.
I do agree. Giants should win.
Yes.
Even though Lockie Whitfield's down.
And that was my notable out, was Lockie Whitfield.
Which hurt my dream team, something chronic.
I've got to make some changes. I haven't fiddled with my team yet, but he's definitely... I don't know, do I trade him out? Do I put him on the bench? I'm just going to put him on the bench.
How long is he out for?
I think potentially 2 weeks. He was listed as a test when I checked the injury list on Wednesday. So 2 weeks max. No, I think GWS get the win. Just St Kilda played some very good footy, maybe coming back to reality a little bit.
Possibly. Mind you, you say that you could probably make a case for if Fremantle lose, come back to reality.
It's that time of year, isn't it?
For a lot of teams that you don't expect to jump up, and yet they do.
It's a matter of who's overachieved and who's actually a decent football team.
Exactly.
And I think St Kilda might be one of the ones that have overachieved.
Next team off the cap of the rank. Giants for me as well. Lions versus Sydney at the Gabba. Pretty comprehensively Lions.
I think so, but...
Buddy's out again this week.
Buddy's out again. Sydney made another change. I think I'm forgetting who it is. Did they make another change? Possibly not. They made a few changes. I think they brought in Will Hayward. I love Will Hayward.
Yeah.
I think he's great. I think he's one of the developing pieces they have. He's not going to get them over the line here.
No.
I don't see anything getting them over the line with the footy they're
Well, I tell you
playing.
what, Buddy went out. He didn't play last week, and I reckon they played better footy in their forward half without him.
They're as great as he is. I love Buddy. I
What
think
they
he's
need to be
fantastic.
doing, okay?
Are they too one-dimensional?
Yeah,
He's in the squad.
100%. And I thought bringing Sam Reid back into the team, was going to change that. But they haven't targeted Sam Reid enough.
No, they haven't. And is this a matter of, their midfield outside of Kennedy Parker and Jack when he rotates through there often, and he's out this week too, Kieran Jack. Their midfield is very young, and as a matter of looking up and you see two blokes and one of them's Lance Franklin, do you just click to Lance Franklin?
Their forward line, you take Franklin out of the forward line, their forward line is very young.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their back line.
Yeah. I love Isaac Heaney. I think
I think
he's
this
amazing.
is the year for Sydney, that this is their year. Apparently this is going to be happening every decade now.
Yeah.
We're starting to get a trend. One step back to go forward again. So last decade, 2009, they missed finals.
Yeah.
First time in a decade that they'd done that, or thereabouts. Decade later, they're going to miss 2019.
I think
reckon.
So. I mean, they were 0-6, was it last year?
Yeah,
but this is a difference.
Yeah, they were still playing well last year.
Yes.
But losing.
They are
not playing well.
No, they're not. They won wins against Carlton. It come by about 3 goals. It was ugly. It was scrappy.
It was not. And
Carlton made them earn it.
Not good for Sydney.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go with the Lions comprehensively.
You reckon Buddy will go to Collingwood? No.
Nah.
He'll finish his contract.
I don't see Buddy playing at Collingwood. If anything, also, just touching on Brisbane, Sydney, gives Brisbane a reprieve. No Harris Andrews, no Buddy. Works out quite well for Brisbane. Yeah. I mean, gives them a bit of a breather. So,
mind you, in saying that, no Harris Andrews, this could be the game that Sam Reid actually takes on.
Also true. Yes.
I'll tell you what,
the key pillar down back for Brisbane? Is it Big Oscar? No, it's running forward. Keys, right. Yeah.
I think it's Keys.
Either way, could be the game that Sam Reid pops up. You never know.
If Sam Reid shows up, Sydney win.
Yes, that could be the
more
deciding
than likely
factor.
The Lions.
I think it takes a lot of pressure off Heaney too, and if Heaney runs rampant, that goes a
very
long way to seeing Sydney
Heaney's
win.
been playing a lot forward this year because he's come off a short pre-season. He needs to be in that midfield.
Yeah, that's very true.
He needs to be in that midfield.
Yeah. No, anyways, I'm comprehensively with Brisbane.
Yeah,
I'm with
same.
Yeah.
Saturday night footy, first game, Western Bulldogs versus Richmond at Marvel Stadium, not the MCG.
This is going to be better than people think it is.
Yeah.
Brisbane, sorry, not Brisbane.
Bulldogs have been playing well, reasonably.
They were good. I watched them test for
I reckon they've been playing much more closely to their 16 game style.
Yes. And I think their midfield is first rate. I mean, I think they have a bit of trouble. Not a bit of trouble. Opposition teams have a bit of trouble containing their midfield with McRae, Hunter, Bontempelli, these guys. Bailey Smith had a great game last week against Freo.
Well, I would say that their midfield was probably beaten last week, though. They may have won the clearances and stuff, but I reckon Freo's midfield comprehensively beat them.
And when it came to crunch time, David Mundy did actually beat them in the clearances when he needed to. Mundy 300. So,
And Richmond have not been playing. They've now lost Jack Rewalt for 4 weeks.
For more.
Which they were supposed to have lost him for that amount of time with his hand.
Yeah.
And they brought him back early, and now he's done his knee.
Richmond will win this game for me. I think they win this game. They played decent footy last week. They ended up blowing Melbourne out after Melbourne gave them a bit of an initial challenge. I like the young kids they brought in. I brought Liam Baker into my fantasy side last week, and I dropped Lincoln McCarthy, who had been a bit of a dud for me. So I was pretty happy about that. But I don't... I don't see the Bulldogs getting over the line. Just the lack of key position players. I mean, is that something we need to grill them a little more on? Because teams who... They've been without a very good keeper. So they want to flag without one.
I don't understand Beveridge's lines of thought. He plays... I understand that he wants a team to be able to play wherever.
Yeah.
He wants their players to be able to play in it, whatever.
He loves versatility. We get that.
But he just plays, and he plays them there in a position that is not working for like a whole game. It just doesn't make sense to me with what he's doing.
He made the switch last week when Norton was struggling up front, and I'll tell you, a player he'd love to have back is probably Joel Hamling. But he made the switch, and Marcus Adams as well.
Yeah.
I mean, those two big key pillars would be great for them. But he made the switch last week to put Norton back after he'd been struggling up forward. We don't see that too often from him, but he's bereft of weapons, isn't he? What does he do? What do you do when you? I don't even know the other guys. Yeah, maybe Zane Cordy and guys like that. I mean, they're just not really up to.
I tell you what, Tim English
standard,
needs a cop out in the ruck.
Yes, he needs a bit of help. He played well on the weekend. I thought he was good against
and he has
Rob.
played well, in games over last year and this year. But for the most part, he's a young ruckman. You can't play a ruckman of his age. Who's what? He's what? 20, 21?
I think so. Yeah, he's
right?
in his
third
year. I think.
Third
year.
He's not, say, like a Sean Darcy, who, if his body is fit, can play that.
Yes,
which is a good
comparison
size.
because they were the first two ruckmen taken in that
Tim
draft.
English doesn't have the body size of Sean Darcy to be able to do that week in, week out.
No, he does not.
Do you know what I mean?
I feel like Sean Darcy should be more of Tim English should be more of a Rory Lobb in terms of being more versatile and worrying about around the ground more than worrying about the hit-outs.
Yeah.
You know? He probably doesn't have the luxury to do that because he doesn't have the tall help. Yeah. Look, Richmond for me in that game, but closer than we may think.
I actually think the Bulldogs could get over on that one. They make the opposition team play poorly enough that they can get over the line.
If Jack McRae gets a hold of Richmond's midfield, makes it very hard for Richmond to get back in the game. Yeah. Yeah.
And last Saturday night game, West Coast versus the Suns at Optus Stadium.
I'm going to go with West Coast.
Yeah,
this is the bounce back game.
I would hope that it's West Coast.
I've said Freo when Freo played them and they picked Freo. So
if West Coast don't beat them at home, I would say that top four is definitely out of the question. Finals might be out of the question.
That's when you come back. If this does happen, I think highly unlikely that it does. That's when we come back and reassess what we were talking about earlier, and we say there is doom and gloom.
Anything less than a comprehensive win will just invoke more media
and keep an uneasy feel among West Coast. An uneasy feel of, are we really getting the job done as much as we should be getting the job done? But I'm with you. I think they win comprehensively.
Yeah,
I mean, what were West Coast changes with? They bring in Redden, they lose Brander. I think that's a good change.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of pace. Mind you, Gold Coast should have a lot of pace with how young they are.
Yeah, I tell you what, Gold Coast are a bit of a scary proposition this year.
Very good job.
Yeah, they're a scary proposition.
They're not exactly a team you pen in as a win anymore. Maybe they will be later in the year when they run out of legs a bit. But for now, look, West Coast comprehensively for me. But if they don't get it done comprehensively, like you said, it keeps things teetering on the edge before they can move forward. Yeah.
First game of Sunday, Carlton versus North at Marvel Stadium.
I tip North.
Really?
I tip North.
That's interesting. I've got Carlton winning by their biggest margin this year. I reckon Carlton will win by 30 points plus.
Is Sean Higgins injured? Is he injured, is he?
I don't know, but he's not playing the same as what he was last year.
Yeah, look, I'm probably pretty stupid for tipping North now that I think about it, but I need to make some tips up in my competition.
Well, they're second last in the competition. Even though they've got the same amount of wins as Carlton, Carlton have been playing much better.
Yes.
I don't know what it is with North. Maybe this is their year that they should have had last year. Specifically with the good draft and everything, they probably should have had this year last year, but North have not been playing well. They were witches' hats against Freo in round one.
Yes, they were.
They played well in round two, I believe.
I think they did. They had their win against Adelaide. I know that.
Yeah,
they won against Adelaide, and that's what I was sort of hanging my hat on with this tip.
But Adelaide haven't been.
No,
well
they haven't,
and that's the problem.
But
Whereas Carlton have been good.
Do we think that Carlton, after a very competitive 2 weeks, being a young side and where they're coming from, though, did they drop off?
No, but this is the thing. This is what I was saying before. I would argue that they've had a very competitive 6 weeks. They've only lost by bigger margins within the last 5 to 10 minutes of against Port Adelaide.
Yes, that's
and against
true.
Richmond.
Yeah,
you take away those 5 to 10 minutes, and those become 1 to 2 goal games.
That's true. That's true.
Which is the same as what. I mean, really, when you're talking about context, it's the same as what a loss to Hawthorn is down in Tasmania.
Yes,
they've been
and in Tasmania,
they've been very close.
Yeah.
If not for a bit of luck going their way, they could be 4-2.
I'm struggling to make arguments for North here, but I will say that this is a game that they probably need to win for their club. They need to win for their coach. is interesting.
They've lost their shin boner spirit this year.
Yes,
there's been
they
no
have.
fight.
Wayne Carey labelled them irrelevant. He's not far off the mark.
He's not wrong.
They're irrelevant at the moment. They need to find some relevance. So I'm going to back him in to do it this week. That's my obscure tip for the week. There you go. I'm backing him in.
I got Carlton. Second game of Sunday, Geelong versus Essendon at the MCG, which is probably... I would probably say this is the game of the round. Geelong are on fire at the moment. Gary Ablett was supposed to be having a rest this week in Geelong's planning for the year, but he's been on fire, so they can't rest him.
Exactly.
Why would you?
Yeah, keep playing.
It seems like he's back to his 2014 form, but in a different position. That's how dominant he is in the forward line at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
And then Essendon, of course. Since round 2, so round 3 onwards,
they had the two blips on the radar.
Blistering.
Which Essendon do we get though? Because I see them they have been blistering overall. If you look at the four-quarter performance, it's been good. But there are patches that come in it that I look at and I go,
well, that's the problem with playing fast-paced footy though.
Mm.
And Essendon's style of play since play about 2011 has been blisteringly fast-paced footy.
Yes,
that's their best footy. But with that involves inconsistent footy.
Yes, yeah. I think with Essendon that strikes a chord in my mind is they needed an identity for those first 2 rounds. They didn't really have much identity. They didn't have much flair going on. They've got a lot of good players. Don't get me wrong. Hurley, Hooker, Heppel, Merritt, all great players. Their identity moving forward for me is Dylan Shield and Joe Danaher. I think if they're on fire, and Joe Danaher's been good in his first couple of games back, Dylan Shield, great last week on Anzac Day outside of the use of the footy that he had. Butchered it a little bit.
He's been able to find the footy very well.
But let's give him a bit of a reprieve. I mean, he's in a new team. He's got new teammates.
And you got to remember as well that a lot of the footy that he had was under a lot of pressure.
Yes. Yeah, it was. I mean, those efficiency numbers, people love to say that, don't they?
Yeah.
Your bloke got 30 touches, but he wasn't very efficient.
The blokes that are getting the high amount of touches like that generally are at the coalface feeding it out.
Yes,
the only difference is Shield doesn't feed the ball out to another player.
No.
He uses the ball himself, which is probably something he needs to work on a bit. Needs to try and get the ball to a player that might be in a better position instead of just blasting it forward. I mean, there could be cases made where that is the right decision, where the footy, or you've just had contest after contest after contest and you just want to clear it. But for the most part, he probably does need to work a bit more on trying to get the hand out to a freer teammate.
He kind of reminds me, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this comparison. It's one of your old
You're going to go Juddy?
Nah, okay. He reminds me of Matt Priddis. I think he plays like Matt Priddis. He probably uses his feet more, uses the kick a little more. He's sort of in an under like him.
I'll tell you what, if he is playing like that, he's playing wrong. Because Dylan Shield is very explosive.
Yes, that's where he
should be using that. Whereas Priddis had to play the way that he was because he was slow as...
he knew that. He knew that.
Right, so that's...
Well, Brownlow still
the
being
difference
slow,
between Priddis and Shield at the moment is as well, Priddis's game relied on handballs, on getting it out to Gaff, or getting it to Marston, who then gave it to Gaff, and getting it to the outside players instead of delivering the ball himself, whereas Shield is trying to do all of that in the one player, and you just can't. You can't in the modern game be that whole one complete player.
For me, if he just, he's got, for me, he's about 90-95% on the weekend. He was still brilliant. Takes it up that extra 5%. Joe Danaher kicks an extra goal. Maybe they pinch a win against Geelong.
Tell you what, Joe Danaher may have missed a couple of games this year, but if he's in this team all year, he could be the common winner.
Yes,
finally,
absolutely.
Finally.
One thing I will say about Geelong is I love the mix of youth and experience they're going with. Makes it easy when you have Ablett, Dangerfield, Selwood leading the way.
It does.
I love what they've been doing in terms of youth. And Port's another side that's done that. I think bringing in young kids that play with guys like Boak and they play with guys like Wines and some stars like that.
What West Coast did last year.
I would agree with that, yeah. But Geelong's been great. Love them. They probably should win this game. I'm going to go with the Dons, though. I'm going to go with Essendon.
Do you think the MCG has any positive or negative effect on either team here?
No, I think it balances out. I think both teams should use the ball well. They spread well. Geelong's got enough youth to be quick and run the ground. Dangerfield runs the ground all day. He's been in cracking form.
With the MCG, you want to use the width of the ground more. So your kicking abilities probably come more prevalent
True.
on the MCG as opposed to running.
Does any side have an advantage in the kicking?
I don't think
maybe
so.
Maybe Geelong if Shield is going to butcher it, but
Well, see,
I
the
don't
thing
think
with
so.
the MCG tends to allow you a bit more space and time as well.
Yes, yeah, and I think Essendon played on there last week as well. I mean, maybe that works in their favour a little bit. That's probably digging a bit too deep. I'm going to go Essendon. I don't think the ground makes a difference too much. I think both clubs should be allowed to play the game they want to play if they get their hands on a football first.
Yeah. I am probably leaning towards Geelong, but I think this game will be an under a 2-goal game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can't see either team blowing the other out unless the wrong Essendon rocks up and the right Geelong rocks up.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can see it.
We haven't seen the wrong Geelong this year either.
No, we haven't. And we're still waiting to see that. And if we do, if these young kids decide all of a sudden they're going to pack it in for the week and it's been a tough first 6 weeks to get to 6-0. Are they 6? No, they're not.
No, they're 5-1.
5-1. It's been a tough 6 weeks to get to 5-1. Maybe Essendon do roll over the top of them. But I'm with you. I can't see this going outside of at least 2 to 3 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last game of the round, Adelaide versus Fremantle at Adelaide Oval.
I picked Freo. That's not surprising, but I will tell you that I'm a stickler.
This game could go either way, really. I agree. I keep going back. Adelaide are a good team, but everything we've seen this year, they're just not. You just go.
I'm a stickler for actually tipping against Freo, even though I'm a Freo fan. Having watched them the last 3 years, I tend to tip against them.
Yeah, it's a bit hard not to.
But this one, I'm backing them in. I'm getting behind my team because I honestly think that it's a tale of two different games. I think both sides play pretty different footy, which side controls that footy. Fremantle love getting on the outside and running, and I feel like if Fremantle burn them enough on the outside, Nathan Wilson probably a bit of a key factor in helping with that. Brad Hill definitely a key factor in helping with that. If Fremantle can get out and burn them on the outside, which they didn't really do against the Dogs. Ed Langdon tried it. He made some mistakes along the wing and things like that. Kicked a couple out on the full. I'm tipping Freo, but it could. You're right. If Adelaide can win that contested footy and get the ball to Tex Walker efficiently enough,
yeah.
I mean, Ross Lyon said through the week, not even Stephen Silvani had stopped the bloke if the delivery is efficient. So,
and that's the thing. Any midfield who can be efficient going into their forward 50, no defensive. They're not going to stop unit will stop a team.
Which is where it comes down to the midfield. I do think Fremantle's defense has absolutely been the highlight of their game this year. Which their offense has been improved. They've cracked 100 2 times, which is great. Their defense has been the key. They rank second only behind Geelong for points allowed, and I don't think that the current Adelaide forward line should get too much of a handle on Hamling, Pearce, Luke Ryan, Wilson. Even Nyhouse came in last week. He was good. I hope they go in unchanged. If they do make a change, I'd like to see it be Cox for McCarthy is the only change I think I'd like to see them make.
I think if Fremantle wants to be... Yeah, because generally every year there is a team from outside the 8 who comes up into or very close to the top 4.
Yes,
I thought it was going to be Brisbane this year. I think it's going to be either Brisbane or Fremantle.
Yes, the way they've started, those are the two.
I think if Fremantle want to be that team this year, they probably drop this game and then use this game as motivation for the rest of the year.
You could be onto something there. I tend to think if it's. This could also work the other way in the fact they want to make a statement in this game and say, look, we're competitive. Like, the GWS thing wasn't a one-off.
No, I think there are better teams to do that against, though.
There could be.
I wouldn't be so negative. If they dropped this game, I wouldn't be so negative on them still making the 8.
No. And also, to that extent, if they win this game, is it a tale of, look how good Fremantle's playing, or is it a tale of, look how bad
I suppose it depends on how each team performs. If Fremantle just perform blindingly well,
the GWS
and
game,
Adelaide let them play like that, then I tell you what, because it's Adelaide's home ground, I think it's more indicative on Adelaide.
Yes, probably.
But if it's a close game, it's more on Freo.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I'm going to go Freo. Who are you going to go?
I'm probably going to have to go with Freo as well, actually. Adelaide are playing very slow. Adelaide Oval does not suit slow play.
Although Fremantle Adelaide Oval hasn't been a happy hunting ground for Fremantle. I think they're 1-5 in their encounters there.
That's true, but they've
belted
only
from
been
pillar to post.
they've only been at Adelaide Oval since 2015.
Yeah,
so they've had
they've
one
been
good year
in that time.
time.
That was when they got their win
in 15, and since then Freo have been shit. So.
And also Fremantle's record against Adelaide in general not as terrible. I mean, they had a win last year. I think Adam Cerra in his rookie year got the 3 votes. Brennan Cox kicks 4 goals. Their record's not terrible against them. You never want to go off last year. It's a whole new team. But, every chance of coming away with a win in my mind.
All right, so we're probably going to have to skip our big topic that we wanted to go through and finish up on our big questions, on our big statements.
Happy to answer first if you want to fire away.
All right.
Do you want to reread your question?
Yep. And guys, let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know in the poll as well what your opinion on this is. Have the new rules made the game better? Now, you're arguing that they have.
I thought I was arguing that they have not.
They have made the
that they have. Okay.
So I'm going... they have not.
All right. Well, I'm glad that it's changed because I do think they have made the game better.
You do realise as well that you're making me argue that Hamling and Pearce are the best.
Yes.
You're arguing that
they're not. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that that's actually turned from what I thought it was because I actually do think they've made the game better.
Yep.
I think that the free-flowing is there. People saying the scoring's not there. Alistair Clarkson came out and said the scoring's not there. The scoring will come. It's the start of a new season. Teams are getting used to new game plans. They're getting used to new things. Yeah, we're 6 round in. So it probably should be starting to come now. But I think the new rules have actually been great. I watched Fife take control of one against the Dogs where he knew that they had too many people, I think, in their defence, and he just crept to the very edge of the centre square where he could go. And then once they had the free kick, he just bolted forward, got the mark, and I think he kicked a goal. Go Fife. But look, I think they've made the game better. I think the flow is better. I know I like the zones. The zone is the big one for me. The 6-6-6. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the 6-6-6.
There were 6 rules? Or 9
something
rules?
like that, yeah.
So you had the 6-6-6. Okay, so let's go.
6-6-6.
Just from the top of our head, 6-6-6, good?
I think it's good. I like
it. The new 50-metre.
Bad. Not good. Well, it's not like they just got to bolt from the get-go.
I know, it's a ridiculous
It's not
thing.
something I like to see.
What's another one?
The no kicking it to yourself on the fullback.
The new kicking rules.
I like it. My old man actually hates it. I spoke to him about it. He's like, it's just not footy if they're not kicking it to themselves. I thought, well, just let them get on with it. I love it. Get over the top.
That doesn't matter.
Get over the top of the defense. Come on.
No runners.
Good. Less congestion. I think that's good. So I'll take that.
The improved. Not to put words in your mouth. The new nominating of the rucks.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think that's a good
5. I can't think of the other 4 though.
Overall, I think the game is looking to be a better product than it was under those old rules. The no kicking out from fullback's a big one for me. I really like that. You just get your most punishing kick in the team.
Oh, that's right. If you take a mark from the square back, then the person defending has to go all the way back out to the square.
Yeah.
As well. Okay, so that's yes. The new rules for me haven't made the game better. They haven't necessarily changed the game, but they haven't made it better.
Yeah.
I do agree. The 6-6-6 rule is interesting. I do think it adds a bit more drama to games, and I do think it adds a bit more flair to players themselves in one-on-one positions. We don't get a lot of one-on-one footy anymore.
Yeah,
but only for the opening 20 seconds of a game.
Exactly.
I don't think it's that big of a difference.
No, I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference.
There are 2 biggest changes in the game that have been made from their new rules. One's the new kicking rules, which I think has drastically affected the way that some teams play.
Set up. I think Melbourne's a team that's arguably getting hurt by that.
Melbourne and Adelaide are the 2 biggest teams that are getting just thumped by it.
Yeah.
Because you've got 1 or 2 ways to exit. You've always had 1 of 2 ways to exit your defensive 50. Short kick and then long kick.
Yeah.
Or controlling the ball out. Yeah. Or just
go on the ground and hit someone on the chest.
Yeah. That hasn't changed, but that defensive zone is now much it's pushed back 50 metres.
Yeah.
Because of this. So the idea for the kick-in rule was to make it easier for teams to get out of their defensive 50. Yeah. It's made it so much harder.
Absolutely has. Yeah.
It's now made it, you don't lock the ball in your front 50, you lock it in your front half.
Yes. Yeah.
Which they have.
Yeah.
And also the no runners, there can be an argument made for no congestion and stuff as well. The signs and stuff on the side of the grounds look absolutely stupid.
They're very
horrendous.
Confusing. Very confusing.
I cannot believe that the AFL wasted over $100,000 on LED signs that they haven't even used because
the clubs are just holding up red bits of cardboard.
It is an absolute joke that they've done this. When those LED signs and everything were found out to not work and we were just using symbols and colours and stuff, the AFL should have backtracked and gone, look, we obviously haven't put this planning in enough. We need to bring the runners back for this year. We're doing this year as more planning as to what our options are, and next year they'll be gone. What they should have done as well with the AFL is all of these new rule changes. I don't think the AFL should be making rule changes in the off-season for that season. I reckon they should be saying, these are the rule changes that are going to be made, but they're going to be happening in the following season. So you have time to prepare your game plans and structures and everything around
You're not springing it on clubs.
Exactly.
And do you then trial that at the state leagues?
Because the problem is as well that the teams that have bigger footy departments have more resources to adjust to this much quicker than the smaller teams do. And you probably actually see that.
And teams with that personnel, you might have gone and acquired someone to exploit a specific area or rule of the game. That player might now be redundant.
Exactly. Yeah. And you had no time to be able to plan for that. And yeah.
All right, mate. Well, my question to you. You've got to argue for this is good. I like this. The bad part is that I've got to argue against it.
See, the problem is I haven't looked a lot into Freo's stats, so I didn't.
Well, mate, tell me whatever you can as to why Alex Pearce and Joel Hamling are the top defensive duo in the game currently. Let's not go into like the last 2 or 3 years.
No,
just
currently,
six games
over the last 6 games. I'll tell you why. As you said before, Fremantle, in terms of scores conceded, the second best in the team, behind Geelong. Now, Geelong only in the top spot because they are in the top spot at the moment.
It's
and they've been scoring so much themselves, it's hard to then score against teams that are scoring as well as that as a unit. Fremantle haven't been that. They've been probably I wouldn't say they've been one of the lowest scoring teams, but they've had 2 games above 100 this year. But as well, in the games that they're not above 100, they're well below 100.
They are. They're around the 60s, 70s, aren't they?
Exactly. But the teams that they're playing are not like that. And it's not been the usual Ross Lyon whole team defensive strategy. It's been relying on those 2 defensive players specifically. Specifically as well, not in just one-on-one contests, but you quite often see Hamling or Pearce come over as an extra man in get the fist on the ball.
They love coming off their man. They really commit to the footy.
Very, very well. The only thing I would like them to do more is intercept more. But in terms of defensively, they are the best duo in the league.
Oh, there it is. You heard it here first. I've now got to argue that they're not, and the reason I'm going to say they're not is because Dylan Grimes is an absolute gun. Richmond have
Dylan
lost...
Grimes and Asprey.
Sorry, we've got to argue duos. Asprey as well. Richmond lose Alex Rance, and this bloke just steps up out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere. He's been around for a while.
I tell you
he's been around. He's been very good for a long time.
He allows... See, no, you're arguing this, not me.
Okay, all right, leave it with me. Look, that I'm trying to think. Is there another team with a defensive duo that we can see? I mean, look, Barrass and McGovern would be the one that I would argue overarchingly is better.
They're a different kind of defensive.
They're very different kind of defensive, and Barrass is injured now, so we're looking at is that really how we're going to operate? And Schofield has certainly not put himself in that conversation.
Not yet.
No, not yet. I think he's quite underrated. Thought he had a stinker on the weekend, but Tom Hawkins is pretty hard to muster when the rest of your team's getting belted.
And he's pretty big. And Will Schofield was never a key a key position player. He was always a running halfback. He bulked up in 15 to be a key position player because Mackenzie went down, and since then he's more or less been that. But give him a couple more games, and he'll replace Barras.
So go through the top sides that are playing good footy. Who are the defensive pillars? Who are the Cats? Like Jack Henry takes a fair few defensive marks.
No, you'd probably go for the Cats. You'd probably go Blixars.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, he's been playing back.
Taylor.
Yes, yeah, and that's a very handy duo. That could trump Pearson Hamling. I don't think it has. I think if you're going to look at one, it's got to be Richmond with Grimes and Asprey. Grimes is the one that's in contention for that All-Australian spot, probably next to Pearson. Essendon, Hooker Hurley. Do we look at them as one a potential candidate?
Give him a couple more rounds because
Hooker's only just gone back, hasn't he?
Yeah,
with the
only just
return of Joe Danaher.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And he played very well.
Yes, he did.
Very well.
He's a very good player, and he has been for a while. I'll tenuously argue that Grimes and Asprey are ahead, although I'm pretty happy to be wrong. So that's my argument.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be the first episode of Footy Rivals. That's what we're calling this, Footy Rivals.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Now, there are going to be some Easter eggs that we're throwing at you throughout the coming weeks and everything. We'll see whether your keen eyes can pick up on those and let us know. Now, this will be going live as a video tomorrow morning as well. So if you want to rewatch it or have some other people rewatch it or watch it for the first time because we've said some outlandish things that you just don't agree with and you just want to go, or you want to present an argument against some of your friends that we comprehensively put together pretty well.
Tell us up. Bring it on. Come on. Give us a bath. Give us a Rodney Eade bath. There you go. Yeah.
And guys, don't forget, if you haven't done so already, make sure you do leave a big thumbs up on it. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for notifications for when we do come out with the new show. It's going to be a weekly thing. 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 7:30 p.m. Western Standard Time. 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. If you, depending on where you are, that will be coming to you every single week, provided that something's not happening with one of us in any given week. But
Absolutely.
it's going to
we'll
be
do our best to commit to yours.
Thank you, Justin.
Oh, thanks very much for having me, mate. I look forward to coming back next week and throwing a few more haymakers your way.
And this has been your AFL Access.